Okay, GitHubbers. So we have been syncing up our local files that we created for Corto website with GitHub, trying to move them into GitHub. So if you followed the previous video, whatever you called the repo where you've got your website files, I called it demo site, should have all of the files that you created so far over here. And if you click on one of these files, you can see them. They'll display. So here I can see the contents of that file. And I have that file locally on my computer. Over here, I have the index file. So these are the same files. In GitHub, I'm just viewing this file. And typically, we don't really edit files in GitHub, though you certainly can. I don't think that's the ideal workflow. You just use GitHub as like a central repo for file sharing, essentially. But you're going to be using applications locally on your computer to edit those changes. So here's our GitHub version. So let's say I'm working locally with these files. So over here, I want to get rid of the T in front of this in the first sentence in the index file. So now I'm going to save this file. So this has been saved locally. If I look at this file in GitHub, it still has this over here. So if you're familiar with working with like Dropbox or something like this, OneDrive, some of these file sharing applications, they're more user-friendly in the sense that they automatically update things. That is not at all how GitHub works. So you need to be careful with GitHub. This change that I made to my index file on my computer has not been pushed into the main repository in GitHub. So the way that I can push those changes, here I am in demo site. I made a change to index. So if I actually do git status, it tells me that this file index has been modified. So that as one change, but it has not yet been staged for commit. There's an untracked file, the .gitignore file, which is not tracked. This means it's not under version control. So any changes I make to that file locally are not going to be tracked with the version that might be in GitHub or in somebody else's repo. And that's fine. So this gitignore file is just instructing GitHub how to sync up version control, but it's not a file that I need to sync itself. So what I want to do right now is take the changes that I made to index and make sure that they appear over here in the GitHub version. And this is going to happen in two stages. So first, I need to commit the stage. So I'm going to go git commit. I'm going to type the file name, which is index.qmd. And then I'm going to type -m. And then I'm going to type a message. So here I deleted T before his and close the quote. So this should commit the changes that I made to the index. So now this is saying, great, one file has been changed, and that is now ready to be pushed through into the remote version. So it's a two-step process. First, I commit the file, then I push the file. So now this pushed the file, and that means whatever changes I made to index should now be reflected over here. I don't see this yet because I need to refresh this web page. So when I refresh the web page, you can see that change has now been made. There is no T before that first word. And if we go into the demo site, you can see that this has tracked that change to the index file. And I can see that change has just been made. What change has been made to what file? So that's why the message is super useful. You're not going to really want to edit files in GitHub, but just what a more reasonable thing might happen is, let's say I'm working on a computer right now at home. I go into work tomorrow and I realize I want to put that T back. So I'm on my computer at work. I open up RStudio at work. I edit the index file at work, and then I commit that change and push that change into GitHub. So now GitHub has a T in it. So I'm going to edit it right now within GitHub, but this is not a normal thing that you would do. But I'm going to put the T back in here, and I'm going to commit this change within GitHub. And I'm going to just leave a message that says I added T before this. And now that change has been committed, and I can see that there is a T before his. And if I go back into the main repo, I can see that added T, well, it was before his, but this added the T back, and that was a new change. So however that change might have occurred, the situation is I've got a version in GitHub which has this word spelled correctly that I like. The version on my computer, let me close this file and open it up. The version I have on my computer doesn't have that T. So I want to take the changes that are on the remote server, GitHub server, the main repo, and I want to push that, I want to pull that change onto my local copy. So there's a push goes from your local copy to the remote repo in GitHub, and a pull is going to take changes from the remote GitHub server and pull them onto your computer locally. So that's what I want to do right now. I want to pull changes. So I go back into the terminal. And once I'm in my terminal, I want to do git, and I want to make sure that I'm in the right directory. I'm still in the demo site directory. I'm going to enter git, and now I'm going to enter pull, and that's it. So this is it knows to go into the GitHub server, pull any file, any changes that have been made, and make those same changes to the files that are locally on my computer. So let me close the index file on my computer. I'm going to run this command. And now I'm going to open the index file. And now I can see that this is here. So this might seem a little bit complicated, but it really is not. So once you do that initial setup, every time you commit something, you're going to do git commit. What I left out here is the file name. If you made a change to one file, you'd enter that file name. If you made a change to multiple files, then you could commit multiple things. But you need to first commit those changes, and you need to include a message with that commit, which is going to help explain what has been done. That stages the file to be synced, and then you need to do git push to actually push those changes into the file in GitHub, and then it's going to make those same changes to the files in GitHub. And then in the case where the main repo in GitHub might have some changes that have been made by somebody else, or they might have been made by you from another computer, and you want to take those changes and update the files locally on your computer with those changes, then you would go into the terminal, go into the directory that you're working in, and type git pull, and that's going to pull those changes. So if you followed these two videos about pushing and pulling changes from local to main repos and back and forth, you've got like the full functionality of GitHub down. Again, it's just like there's lots of git commands that you can do. The ones that you're going to get really familiar with are commit, push, pull, and status is useful too. If you got lost along the way or you got frustrated with that process, there's a much, much easier way to do this that is a little bit less convenient. So I'm going to talk about that in the other video. So if you didn't get this to work out for you, don't worry. There's a more user-friendly way of doing this that I'll talk about in the next video.